Yeah.
Imagine, if you will, just packing up absolutely everything you own. Like you've finally done it. You've quit that stressful job. You sold your cramped little apartment and you are moving, I don't know, 3,000 miles away to this pristine beach in Bali.
Ah, the absolute dream.
Right. It's the dream. So you step off the plane, you get to this beautiful, breezy villa, you unlock the door, you drop your bags on the floor, and you just look out at the ocean.
Yeah.
And this is the kicker, within about 5 minutes, you realize that the exact same suffocating dread you felt back in that tiny city apartment has literally traveled right alongside you in your suitcase. Today, we're dismantling the illusion of the geographic cure.
It's just a devastating realization, isn't it?
It really is.
That moment you discover the geography has changed, like the coordinates are completely different, the weather's perfect, but your internal state hasn't shifted a single millimeter. It's kind of the ultimate bait and switch that our own brains play on us.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a genuinely fascinating stack of source materials today. It's this rich collection of notes and reflections, all centered around mindfulness, slow living, and emotional healing.
Yeah, and the sources are just incredibly profound.
They really are. And our mission for this deep dive is incredibly focused. It all boils down to a single question that I want to pose directly to you listening right now. It's a question that, once you really hear it, it kind of haunts you.
Oh, absolutely.
The question is, why do so many people keep searching for a better place when what they're really searching for is a more peaceful mind?
That question is, honestly, it's the perfect scalpel to just cut through all our default assumptions about what it means to be settled or, to be happy.
Right.
Because we spend our entire lives thinking about home as this destination we have to reach. But the sources we are looking at today, they flip that entirely on its head.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because we are going to move way beyond the idea of home as just, a physical structure.
Latitude and longitude.
Exactly. Not just a roof, walls, a foundation. We're going into the architecture of the mind itself. We're going to explore how you can cultivate a true sense of belonging and a comfort that travels with you, completely, regardless of your zip code.
Because if we want to understand what home truly is,
Right.
we first have to understand why our traditional strategies for finding it.
The moving, the buying, the upgrading.
Yeah, all of that. Why those strategies so often fail us completely. What's fascinating here is if we look at the source material, the central theme it keeps circling back to is this deep-seated human tendency to seek external solutions for internal restlessness.
Yes.
And, there is a profound evolutionary reason for this.
Yeah.
Just think about our ancestors for a second.
Okay.
For hundreds of thousands of years, if you felt uncomfortable, if you felt anxiety or dread, it was almost always because your physical environment was dangerous or depleted.
Like there was a predator outside the cave.
Exactly. A predator or lack of food or extreme cold.
Right. So the threat was literal. It was environmental.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So the solution to that internal alarm bell of anxiety was literally geographic. You moved. You migrated over the next hill to find a better valley. Our brains are hardwired by evolution to equate a change in location with a resolution of the threat.
Wow, that makes so much sense.
Right. But the problem is, modern anxiety isn't usually a saber-toothed tiger or a drought. It's an overdue mortgage or a toxic boss or a sense of inadequacy or just existential dread.
But because we still have that ancient hardware, we try to solve these completely abstract psychological threats with geographic movement.
Exactly. We think, I just lived in the mountains, I'd be calm.
Or if I just had that corner office, I'd finally feel secure. We treat these circumstantial shifts as if they're like psychological treatments. We literally treat a new city like it's a pharmaceutical antidote to anxiety.
And the sources call this out as a fundamental illusion. It's this persistent, totally exhausting search for a place where we hope life will finally feel complete. You can change the scenery, you can upgrade the view, but you are still the exact same person looking through the window.
Okay, I have to push back on this just a little bit because I think there's a danger in being almost too philosophical here.
Sure, go for it.
Surely buying a bigger house or, I don't know, moving out of a really terrible neighborhood gives you more space to relax, right? I mean, if you are listening to this right now and you're living in a cramped, incredibly noisy, stressful environment, and you move to a spacious, quiet house in the suburbs.
Your stress drops.
Right. Your stress levels are objectively going to drop. There is real, measurable, physiological comfort in that external change. We can't just dismiss the physical environment entirely.
No, and you're right that we shouldn't dismiss it, but we really have to look at the timeline of that relief. What you're describing is absolutely real, but it's temporary. It is driven by a psychological mechanism called hedonic adaptation.
Hedonic adaptation. Okay, unpack that for us.
So when you move from the cramped, noisy apartment to the spacious, quiet house, you experience this massive spike in relief and happiness. Your stress drops. For the first 3, maybe 4 weeks, you wake up and think, wow, this is amazing. I have so much space.
Everything feels fresh and new.
Exactly. But the human brain is just highly adaptive. It is designed to get used to whatever the new baseline is. So after a few months, that spacious house isn't the amazing new house anymore.
It's just the house.
It's just the house. The dopamine hit totally fades. The contrast effect disappears. And this is the critical part. Whatever baseline level of anxiety you possessed before you moved, whatever unresolved internal conflicts were just sort of humming in the background of your mind in the old apartment,
They boot right back up in the new house.
they boot right back up. Oh, wow. So you adapt to the luxury, and the old anxiety just finds new things in the nice house to latch onto.
Exactly. Now, you aren't anxious about the noisy neighbors. You're anxious about the property taxes or the landscaping, or you're just experiencing that vague, free-floating dread that honestly has nothing to do with the house at all.
Right.
Yes, physical space and safety matter immensely. You absolutely need a baseline of physical security. But we are confusing the removal of a specific external irritant with the creation of lasting internal peace.
That makes total sense. It reminds me of how we treat our technology.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about a smartphone. Let's say your phone's battery is completely degraded, it won't hold a charge, and the operating system is glitching out, right? It's just crashing every 5 minutes.
I've been there. It's infuriating.
Exactly. So you can go out and buy a beautiful, expensive, I don't know, diamond-encrusted new case for that phone. You can put a gorgeous new background on the lock screen, but it doesn't fix the fact that the device itself is fundamentally failing.
Yeah. A new background, a new case, a new city, a new house. None of it fixes the underlying operating system of your mind.
That is the perfect analogy. The bigger house is literally just a nicer phone case.
Yeah.
If your internal operating system is still running, anxiety.exe or some inadequacy software, you're going to pace the hardwood floors of that beautiful new house, feeling the exact same dread you felt on the cheap linoleum of the cramped apartment.
Which brings up this incredibly vivid image for you, the listener, to sort of reflect on. Have you ever reached a highly anticipated destination? Like maybe it was a new job you fought tooth and nail for, a promotion you thought would change your whole life, or a vacation spot you saved up for all year.
We all have one of those.
Right, and you finally arrive, the external circumstances are supposedly perfect, and you find that your usual anxieties were just sitting right there in your suitcase, waiting for you to unpack them.
That phenomenon is exactly what the source material is highlighting today. We pack our internal state right alongside our toothbrushes.
Yes, we do.
You go to that pristine beach in Bali, hoping for total serenity. But if you haven't done the internal work, you'll just be sitting on incredibly beautiful white sand, obsessively worrying about your emails.
Or replaying a minor argument you had, like 3 weeks ago at a grocery store.
Exactly. The scenery is an absolute paradise, but your mind is still trapped in the cubicle.
So if a new city or a bigger house doesn't automatically grant us peace, if this whole geographic cure is largely a mirage, then our fundamental definition of what a home is needs a serious ground-up upgrade. Where does the source material suggest we look next? Because it makes a really profound point about how our definition of home naturally has to change as we grow older.
It's a really fascinating developmental shift. Think about childhood for a second. When you were a young child, your definition of home is highly, highly literal. It's a physical structure.
Right.
It is the house where your parents are, where your bed is, where the food is kept in the pantry. It's entirely defined by its walls, its roof, and its physical coordinates.
Right. It's defined by external boundaries. The door locks, the rain stays outside, the monsters stay outside, and you are safe inside.
Exactly. For a child, the environment provides the regulation.
Yeah.
But as we age, as we enter adulthood and really experience the incredible complexities and abstract threats of the world, that literal definition becomes insufficient.
It has to transition.
It has to. Because as an adult, the monsters aren't outside the door anymore.
Oh, that's so true.
They are inflation, career instability, relationship failures, social standing, health anxieties. A locked front door and a solid roof literally cannot protect you from any of those abstract threats. Therefore, home has to stop being just a coordinate on a map and start becoming an internal state. of feeling.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the sources draw this incredibly stark distinction here, one that I want to spend some real time exploring. They separate external comfort from inner peace. Let's really break down the mechanics of that, because they sound very similar, right? We often use them interchangeably, but they operate completely differently on a psychological level. External comfort is having the softest mattress, the perfect climate control, the high thread count sheets. It's optimizing the physical environment.
Yes, and inner peace is actually being able to fall asleep in that bed without your mind racing at 100 miles an hour.
Oh, wow. That is such a brutal but entirely accurate distinction. You can have all the external comfort in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
you can be in the penthouse suite of a luxury hotel, perfectly temperate, totally silent, and still be completely, utterly insomniac because your mind is a war zone.
Precisely. Let's look at the neurobiology of sleep and safety for a moment, because it explains this
Okay,
perfectly.
let's do it.
So to fall asleep, your brain's reticular activating system, that's the part that monitors the environment for threats it has to power down.
Mm.
It has to signal the rest of the nervous system that it is safe to be unconscious. Now, external comfort can remove physical threats. The locked door tells the brain, no predators. The thermostat tells the brain, no risk of freezing. But if you are ruminating on a terrible mistake you made at work, your brain perceives a social and emotional threat.
And the brain reacts the same way.
To the primitive parts of your brain, social exile is just as dangerous as a physical predator. So your sympathetic nervous system stays engaged. Cortisol is just pumping through you. You're in full fight or flight mode while lying on $1,000 Egyptian cotton sheets.
That is absolutely fascinating. So external comfort relies on controlling your environment, but it's fundamentally fragile because, well, you just can't control everything.
No, you can't.
Inner peace, on the other hand, relies on regulating your internal state regardless of the environment.
That's the key. Inner peace is the ability to signal safety to your own nervous system, even when the environment isn't perfectly optimized. And if we extrapolate from what the sources are telling us, the implications of this shift from external to internal are massive. If home is a feeling rather than a place, it means we are no longer tethered to a single location for our sense of security.
The home becomes portable.
A portable sanctuary.
Yeah.
Just think about the freedom in that. You don't have to rush back to a specific building at the end of the day to finally exhale and feel safe. You carry that safety with you into the chaotic grocery store, into an incredibly difficult board meeting, into a delayed, crowded airport terminal.
That is incredibly liberating, the idea that I can just carry my sanctuary in my own mind. But I'll be honest, it also sounds like a tremendous amount of work.
Oh, it is. It really is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because realizing that home is portable is a great paradigm shift, but how exactly do we build this home in the soul? If the physical house needs bricks and mortar, what are the actual materials for this internal architecture? How do we build it so it can actually withstand the chaos of the outside world?
This raises an important question. And thankfully, the source material doesn't just leave us hanging with, abstract philosophy. It's actually quite practical. It provides what we can think of as the architectural blueprints for this inner sanctuary.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. It lays out 4 distinct pillars for growing inner peace and constructing that portable home.
Okay, if we accept that the physical house doesn't fix the mind, it leaves us with the slightly terrifying reality that we have to fix the mind itself. Let's delve into these pillars because they really are the foundation of everything we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So the first pillar the sources emphasize is self-acceptance, making peace with who you are right now rather than some future perfected version of yourself.
This is critical because a home, by definition, is a place where you are allowed to take off your armor. It is a place where you can be yourself without pretending, without constantly performing for others. If your internal monologue is constantly criticizing you, like if it's constantly running a ticker tape telling you that you aren't thin enough, smart enough, productive enough, or successful enough yet, then your own mind is a hostile environment.
Right. It's literally like living with an abusive roommate.
Yes,
Yeah.
but even worse, because you can't put on noise-canceling headphones to drown out your own inner critic.
You can't just lock your bedroom door and ignore them.
Exactly. Let's look at the psychology of chronic self-criticism. When you are constantly berating yourself, your brain doesn't actually distinguish between an external attacker and an internal one.
Oh, wait, really?
Really.
Yeah.
It triggers that exact same fight or flight stress response we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You are flooding your own system with stress hormones simply by the way you talk to yourself.
Wow.
You literally cannot feel at home in a biochemical environment of chronic stress.
So self-acceptance isn't just this, warm, fuzzy self-help concept. It's a physiological necessity. It's evicting that hostile internal roommate and replacing them with an advocate. It's saying, I am allowed to exist here exactly as I am right in this moment, flaws and all.
Exactly. It's establishing the absolute baseline safety of the internal house. Once you have that, you can move to the second pillar, which is gratitude. And it is vital to clarify what the source material means by gratitude in this specific context.
Yes, I noticed this in the notes too. I really want to highlight that this isn't about toxic positivity.
No, not at all.
It's not about forcing yourself to smile when things are genuinely terrible or, gaslighting yourself into thinking a bad situation is actually great. It's about genuinely appreciating what you already have rather than constantly obsessing over the next destination or the next acquisition. The sources describe it as a grounding mechanism.
It is a profound grounding mechanism, and it combats one of the brain's most stubborn features, the negativity bias.
Ah, yes.
Evolutionarily, our brains are like Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones.
I love that phrase. Velcro for bad, Teflon for good.
It's so true, though. Remembering the location of the poisonous berries was literally a matter of life and death. But remembering a beautiful sunset was just nice.
Right. Nice doesn't keep you alive.
Exactly. So our default state is to constantly scan the horizon for what's missing, what's broken, what's dangerous.
Which means we are constantly mentally living in a future that doesn't exist yet. Usually a future we are actively worried about. We say things like, oh, I'll finally be happy when I get the promotion, or I'll relax when the kids are in college, or I'll feel at home when we buy the bigger house.
Exactly. We defer our peace to a fictional timeline.
Wow.
Gratitude is the manual override of that biological negativity bias.
Yeah.
It forces your brain to stop scanning the horizon and instead acknowledge the safety, the resources, and the comfort that are actually present in the current room.
Okay, so it pulls you back.
Yes. When you actively practice gratitude, you're essentially telling your nervous system, look around. We have nothing. We have food. We have a friend. We have enough right now. We are okay. It yanks you out of the hypothetical future and plants you firmly in the safety of the present.
Which flows so directly into the third and fourth pillars, which the sources pair together almost like a single mechanism. And that is mindfulness and letting go of unnecessary worries.
They are deeply intertwined. Mindfulness is simply the practice of keeping your attention in the present moment without judgment. And letting go is the mechanical release of the things you cannot control. The sources emphasize that inner peace can only grow when we stop clinging to the illusion of control.
That phrase, the illusion of control, is huge. We spend so much cognitive energy trying to manage outcomes that are completely out of our hands, like what other people think of us, how the economy will shift, whether it will rain on our wedding day.
Yeah, things we have zero say in.
Right. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about reallocating that wasted energy back into the present moment.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If you were gripping the steering wheel of a car trying to control the weather outside, you are just going to exhaust yourself and crash. Mindfulness says, notice the rain, accept the rain, and just focus on driving the car.
So we have these four pillars. We have self-acceptance, gratitude, mindfulness, and letting go. But the source material also highlights a massive external threat to this inner architecture. There's a very specific mention of spending less time comparing yourself with others as a necessary defense mechanism to protect your mental space. I really want to dig into that. How does comparison actually break down the walls of our inner home? What is the mechanical failure happening there?
Well, let's avoid the cliche metaphors here and look at it strictly structurally. Think of your mind, your portable sanctuary, like a highly customized smartphone or computer operating system. You've optimized it for your specific needs, your pace, your values. When you engage in chronic comparison, specifically through the hyper-curated lenses of social media or, obsessing over a colleague's rapid career trajectory, you're fundamentally downloading malware into your system.
Oh, I love that analogy. Comparison as malware.
It acts exactly like a malicious background process.
Yeah.
Social media platforms, for instance, are engineered by thousands of the smartest behavioral psychologists on the planet to trigger what's called relative deprivation.
Relative deprivation. Okay.
So you can be perfectly happy with your life, your home, your relationships. Everything is fine. Then you open an app, and suddenly you are bombarded with images of people who seem richer, fitter, more successful, and happier.
It's like leaving your device entirely unprotected on an open Wi-Fi network. You are just letting everyone else's highlight reels, their judgments, and their expectations install themselves right onto your hard drive.
And just like malware, it drains your cognitive battery in the background. You don't even realize it's running. But suddenly you feel lethargic, you feel unsettled, your system starts glitching. You look at your perfectly nice living room and suddenly think, this is inadequate. I am behind. I am failing.
Right.
You are letting strangers rewrite the code of your own contentment.
That is terrifying, but it's so accurate. You let that malware run, and naturally, you feel completely unsettled. You feel like a stranger in your own mind. You literally cannot feel at home because your internal environment is constantly buffering, trying to load someone else's life.
That is exactly why the sources explicitly tell us we must fiercely protect our mental space and intentionally slow down. Slowing down, disconnecting, is the equivalent of running an antivirus scan.
Wow, yeah.
It's how you identify those intrusive comparative thoughts, isolate them, delete them, and reset your system to its default state of being enough. It isn't just a nice, fluffy self-care tip. It is an act of fierce psychological self-preservation.
So we've mapped out the big psychological pillars. We're establishing self-acceptance, manually overriding our negativity bias with gratitude, letting go of control, and setting up firewalls against the malware of comparison.
Right.
But what strikes me about the source material is that building this inner home doesn't just happen during like deep, expensive meditation retreats or massive dramatic paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
It makes it really clear that this construction happens in the smallest, most ordinary fractions of our day.
The mundane is exactly where the actual architecture is built. The big philosophical shifts are the blueprint, but the ordinary moments are the bricks.
I really love this list from the sources. It highlights these evocative, incredibly simple experiences that make life feel like home. And I want to run through them because on the surface, they seem almost too simple.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so drinking a warm cup of tea or coffee, watching the sunset, listening to the rain, reading a favorite book or hearing a familiar song, having a meaningful conversation, sitting quietly without needing to rush anywhere.
Notice what all of those items have in common.
Well, they are all completely free, for one. They require zero travel. You don't need a passport or mortgage to access them. But why these specific things? I mean, the sources aren't just listing pleasantries to fill the time, are they?
No, they aren't. These are sensory anchors.
Sensory anchors.
Let's look at the mechanics of why these specific ordinary moments hold such immense psychological power. Because it isn't just poetry, it's neurology.
Okay, break that down for us.
As we discussed, anxiety almost exclusively lives in the future, and regret lives in the past. But your inner home, your sense of true peace, only exists in the present tense.
Right. You can't be at peace in the future because it just hasn't happened yet.
Exactly. So how do you force a time-traveling, anxious brain to stay in the present? You have to use the body's senses because the body is always in the present. Take the example of listening to the rain from the source material. Why is rain so universally calming?
I've always wondered that. Like, why do we all have rain sounds on our sleep apps? It's on everyone's phone.
It comes down to fractal geometry and predictable unpredictability.
Predictable unpredictability. That's a mouthful.
It is, but think about it. Our modern environments are filled with harsh, linear, highly demanding stimuli. Spreadsheets, traffic lights, notifications pinging. They demand intense, focused, fatiguing cognitive processing. Rain, on the other hand, provides a dense sensory input that is chaotic but structurally patterned.
Right.
It's a broad-spectrum sound that literally masks sudden alarming noises, which lowers the vigilance of our threat detection system.
So the sound of the rain is literally telling the brain you don't need to be on high alert.
Exactly. And more importantly, when you are actively listening to the complexity of the rain, you cannot be simultaneously worrying about next week's performance review. The sensory experience demands your cognitive presence. It acts as a physical boundary, a wall, that keeps your mind from wandering off into a hypothetical, stressful future.
You are fully inhabiting your internal home in that moment. Or take another one from the list, drinking a warm cup of coffee or tea. If you look at the mechanics of that, it's brilliant. The heat radiating into your hands, the bitter or sweet smell, the actual taste on your tongue. If you intentionally pay attention to it rather than just, gulping it down as caffeine fuel while staring at a chaotic inbox, it acts as a neurological reset button.
Yes. The physical sensation of warmth in your hands triggers a deeply ingrained, almost primitive association with safety and shelter. It signals to your nervous system, right now, in this exact second, there is no threat, There is only warmth. We are safe.
Think about your day so far as you're listening to this deep dive. What was your warm cup of tea moment? It doesn't have to literally be a beverage. Maybe it was the feeling of the hot water hitting your back in the shower this morning. Maybe it was the first breath of crisp, fresh air when you stepped outside your door. Did you rush through it, already mentally halfway to work, rehearsing an argument you might have with a coworker? Or did you pause just for 10 seconds and let it be a moment of coming home to yourself?
It requires a profound shift in perspective to value those moments. The sources are essentially suggesting that life isn't a series of major milestones, the graduations, the promotions, the big moves, separated by empty, irritating waiting periods.
Right. We always treat the in-between like it's a nuisance.
Exactly. But the waiting periods are the life. The ordinary sensory moments are the actual bricks you use to build your inner sanctuary. If you ignore them, you have absolutely no materials to build with.
So, what does this all mean? Okay, understanding the biological and psychological beauty of these moments is wonderful. But how do we actively engineer more of this piece starting right now, today? If I'm listening to this and I feel completely disconnected, overwhelmed, and far from home, how do I start building? We don't want to just talk about this abstractly. We want to give people the tools.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source material is remarkably pragmatic about this. It bridges the gap between the philosophy of inner peace and the daily application of it. Creating a peaceful life wherever you are comes down to intentional, comforting, daily rituals.
Rituals, okay.
They offer a specific blueprint of actionable steps that require very little time, cost absolutely nothing, but yield massive emotional and neurological returns.
Let's break down these specific, simple suggestions from the source text that you can implement immediately. The first one they suggest is the 5-minute reset, taking 5 minutes of absolute, uninterrupted silence.
Which, for a modern brain, is much harder and more agonizing than it sounds.
Oh, it's excruciating at first. I've tried it. Within 30 seconds, my brain is screaming for a podcast, a song, a social media feed, just anything to fill the void. We are so incredibly addicted to stimulation. Why is that silence so difficult, but so necessary?
Let's look at the brain's default mode network, or the DMN.
The DMN.
The DMN is a network of interacting brain regions that is active when you are not focused on the outside world. When you are constantly bombarding your brain with external inputs, working, scrolling, watching TV, listening to music, you are actively suppressing the DMN.
Right.
Your brain is just collecting data, collecting emotional reactions, collecting stress, but it never has a chance to process or file any of it away.
It's like leaving dozens of tabs open on your browser, downloading file after file, but never actually organizing your desktop.
Exactly. Taking 5 minutes of silence is agonizing at first because the moment you stop the external input, the DMN kicks in. And all those unprocessed emotional files, the anxieties, the minor slights, the unresolved worries, suddenly pop up on your internal screen.
So that's why people hate silence.
That's exactly why. It forces them to face their own clutter. But if it's pushed through that initial discomfort, silence becomes the environment in which the mind organizes itself. Taking 5 minutes of silence isn't about perfectly emptying your mind like a Zen monk.
Which is such a relief to hear, honestly.
Right. It's simply about giving the dust a chance to settle. It's letting the brain file away the clutter so the space feels clean again.
The next step in the blueprint is a digital disconnect, putting away the phone for a set period. And this ties directly back to what we said earlier about protecting your mental space from the malware of comparison.
It also relates to cognitive load and the penalty of context switching. Your phone is a portal to the demands of the entire world. When it is in your hand or even just visible on your desk, part of your brain is monitoring it.
Just anticipating the buzz.
Yeah. You are existing in multiple dimensions at once. You are in your email inbox, you are in the 24-hour news cycle, you are in your high school friends' vacation photos, you are everywhere except where your physical body actually is.
The cognitive load of being in 5 places at once must be staggering.
It is exhausting. Putting the device in another room, completely out of sight, is the most effective way to force your consciousness back into your physical environment.
Yep.
It collapses all those alternate realities and anchors you in the present. You cannot build an inner home if you are never actually in it.
Then there is the rule of 3. which the sources highly recommend. And that is actively noticing 3 beautiful things around you every single day.
This is a direct, practical application of the gratitude pillar we discussed. And again, it's about brain training. It utilizes the reticular activating system, the RAS, in a positive way. Your RAS filters the millions of bits of sensory data around you and decides what gets brought to your conscious attention.
Okay.
If you are stressed, your RAS looks for threats.
But if you force yourself to play this game, find 3 beautiful things, you are manually reprogramming that filter.
Exactly. You're training the RAS to scan your environment for positives rather than threats. And the beauty doesn't have to be grand. It could be the way the afternoon light hits the steam rising from your coffee mug, a crack in the pavement where a tiny, resilient weed is growing, or just the specific shade of blue in the sky today.
That's so manageable.
It is. And doing this consistently grounds you in the immediate wonder of your surroundings, proving on a daily basis that you don't need to travel to a new city to find beauty.
And finally, the sources bring up physiological calming. Simply taking time to breathe deeply. It sounds so basic, almost cliche, but we constantly forget that the mind and the body are not separate entities. They are a single, continuous feedback loop.
It's the fastest hack into the nervous system. If you are stressed, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. This chest breathing sends a mechanical signal to your brain saying, we are preparing to run or fight. There is danger.
Wow.
Your brain assumes you are in a survival situation, and you will feel anxious no matter how safe or luxurious your physical environment is.
But deep breathing, specifically diaphragmatic breathing, where your stomach expands manually, overrides that stress response.
It physically stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the slipper highway of the parasympathetic nervous system. When you breathe deeply, the vagus nerve releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which literally slows down your heart rate and lowers your blood pressure.
So it's not just a mental trick.
No, it is a biological command.
Yeah.
It bypasses your anxious thoughts and directly tells your nervous system, the threat is gone. We are safe. We are home.
All of these rituals, the 5-minute reset, the digital disconnect, the rule of 3, the deep breathing, they are all fantastic practical tools. But as we were looking over the notes before we started this deep dive, there is one specific tool in the sources that stands out above all the rest. It is what we are calling the ultimate daily question.
Yes. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this discussion, this one cognitive reframe is arguably the most powerful mechanism in the entire source material.
The question you need to ask yourself, ideally every single day, is this: what already makes me feel at home today?
Let's analyze the architecture of why that specific phrasing is so brilliant. As we've established, most of our internal dialogue is deficit-focused. Our brains are problem-solving machines, which means we constantly ask ourselves, what am I missing? What needs to be fixed? What do I need to buy, achieve, or change next to finally feel okay?
Right. We are constantly running a gap analysis between where we currently are and where we think we theoretically should be. And that gap is where all the suffering lives.
Precisely. But this question, what already makes me feel at home today, completely short-circuits that gap analysis. It is a linguistic trick that forces a massive shift in focus. It demands that your brain stop looking for what is absent and start cataloging what is present.
It presumes that the comfort is already here. It doesn't ask if you feel at home. It asks what is making you feel at home. It tasks you with simply identifying the peace that already exists in your environment, and it can be so small. Maybe it's the fact that your favorite worn-out sweater is clean and you're wearing it. Maybe it's the fact that you have a quiet hour before anyone else in the house wakes up. Maybe it's just the steady rhythm of your dog breathing at your feet.
By asking the question, you shift your brain's entire operating system from what am I lacking to what is currently providing me shelter.
Yeah.
And when you start stacking those realizations, the warm sweater, the quiet hour, the cup of tea, the deep breath, you experience a profound paradigm shift.
You suddenly realize that you're already standing right in the middle of the sanctuary you've been desperately trying to travel to.
It's powerful.
It has been such a journey unpacking these sources today. The ground we've covered is fundamentally life-altering if applied. Let's do a quick flyover of what we've explored. We started by dismantling the illusion of the geographic cure, that false evolutionary hope that a new city or a bigger house will magically fix an anxious mind. We redefined what home is, moving it from a physical, vulnerable location to a portable, indestructible feeling of inner peace.
We examine the internal architecture required to build that portable home. It requires self-acceptance to evict the inner critic, gratitude to override our negativity bias, mindfulness to let go of control, and fierce protection of our mental space against the malware of comparison.
We highlighted the incredible anchoring power of ordinary sensory moments like the fractal rhythms of listening to the rain. And finally, we laid out the daily blueprints. The 5-minute silences to clear the default mode network, the digital disconnects, and the ultimate question required to build this piece day by day.
And if there is one core truth from the source material that synthesizes absolutely everything we have discussed today, one message we want to ensure is crystal clear before we end, it is this: the place doesn't create peace. A peaceful mind transforms every place into home.
The place doesn't create peace. A peaceful mind transforms every place into home. That is beautiful. It is the ultimate antidote to the restlessness we all feel. We don't always need to change our surroundings. We don't need to change our jobs or uproot our lives or fly to Bali to feel at home. Because the greatest journey, the only journey that really matters in the end, is learning to create that enduring peace within ourselves.
It is the ultimate form of self-reliance. You become immune to circumstance.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thing to mull over as you go about your day. We talked earlier about how you wouldn't want strangers coming in and rearranging the furniture in your inner home, and how you wouldn't want to live with a roommate who constantly berates you. Well, if your mind is your true home, the one you carry with you everywhere you go, into every meeting, every vacation, every challenge, take a look around it today. What kind of thoughts and habits are you choosing to furnish it with? Are they comfortable? Are they welcoming? Are you a gracious host to yourself?
That is a phenomenal question to carry forward. The furniture of the mind dictates the quality of the life.
Thank you so much for spending this peaceful moment with us. May you discover that true comfort isn't something you find on a map, but something you cultivate within. Wherever life takes you, whatever changes come your way, we hope you always find comfort within yourself. Take care, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.